The New York Knicks and the Utah Jazz actually had many conversations, several in the days leading up to the NBA trade deadline, involving Donovan Mitchell, to which every phone call ended, yes, sorry, man, Donovan's not available. The Knicks were pursuing Donovan Mitchell, calling the Utah Jazz leading up to the deadline, trying to make a deal happen for Donovan Mitchell, to which the Jazz summarily dismissed those requests.
Yeah.
And I guess, Jake, I'm not really that surprised, but when you hear that, I mean, I'm not saying that it was close, because it was not close. The Jazz didn't even entertain the conversation from what I understand.
Mm-hmm.
But when you hear that, what you begin to understand is that it is a real possibility that Donovan Mitchell winds up being a New York Knick.
Yeah, I think, there's this narrative that goes around that he's from New York and he wants to play in a major market, and we've heard the rumblings and the rumors and the conversations, but I think right now Don is focused on being a Jazz man, and I think that Don is not in a place where he's asked for a trade or that's even been a thing, even though there have been a lot of people who have been saying that, and I think that. Will he be a Knick at some point before his NBA career is over? Yeah, probably. I would, if I was a betting man, I'd put money on that. I do think that he'll be a Knick before his NBA career is over. But right now, I think his sole focus is on winning a championship with the Jazz. Now, will that happen? Probably not, in my opinion, but we'll see. It remains to be seen. So, am I surprised that the Knicks came calling? No. Am I surprised that any team would call another team for their best player? Not at all. Right? I mean, that's how big trades get done. That's how the blockbuster deal happens. That's how three-way deals happen. So I'm not surprised that the Knicks called, and I'm not surprised that the Jazz said no. That it's not even a talking point. It's not a conversation. We're not doing that. So, yeah, not surprised. However, I do think if you're a Jazz fan, you need to understand that this conversation can change in a heartbeat. All it takes is Don saying, yeah, look, I want to be out and I want to go and play for the Knicks. And now all of a sudden that conversation has shifted. So that's why players in the NBA have the control, not teams. Players ultimately will decide where they play. Look no further than the Ben Simmons situation, right? So that's what I think you just have to be careful of with this thing with Don.
Yeah, and I want to make this very clear. I have said this repeatedly. This is going on 6 weeks since we first reported. The Jazz and Donovan Mitchell have talked about this exact scenario multiple times. The Utah Jazz have been very clear with Donovan Mitchell directly to him. They are building around him. He is their guy. They are going to spare no expense to build a championship caliber ball club around Donovan Mitchell. They are going to put him in a position to win multiple championships, which is what Donovan Mitchell has said he wants. But I also understand that Donovan Mitchell has never demanded a trade from the Jazz. He has never said, I'd like to play somewhere else. He has never said, I want to be a New York Knick right now, make it happen. Don's never said that. What he said is, I don't want to waste the best years of my career losing. I don't want to be in a position where there is no championship in sight.
Yeah.
Donovan Mitchell has enough money for the rest of his life. And he understands that going forward, he will continue to make a significant amount of money in the NBA.
Facts.
Donovan Mitchell wants to win rings, and he wants multiple rings. And if he doesn't see that happening in Utah, that's when I think things will dramatically change. But as it stands right now, the Jazz have told Donovan Mitchell, you're our guy. We're going to spare no expense and no effort to build a championship caliber club around you. The New York Knicks absolutely should call the Utah Jazz on Donovan Mitchell. Why would they not?
Yeah.
They would be derelict if they did not. The Jazz should absolutely do exactly what they did at this point and say, no, we're not trading Donovan Mitchell, which is exactly what they did. If you look at the Knicks situation, and we've talked about this on this show as well, they have Leon Rose, who used to represent Donovan Mitchell as his agent. He is in their front office. They have Johnny Bryant, the former Utah assistant coach, on their bench. In their organization. They have an infrastructure that is familiar with Donovan Mitchell. By the way, Donovan Mitchell's a New Yorker. His dad works for the Mets. This is nothing new. This is not shocking. What I would say is that this summer again remains incredibly important for the Utah Jazz. They have to remake this roster. I think they know that they need to remake this roster. They've effectively told Donovan Mitchell, we are going to remake this roster.
Yeah.
And I also think, Jake, and this is what we talked about at the deadline, I think that when you look at the deals that were out there for the Jazz to make, there were very few deals. They, in my opinion, could not have made a transformative deal at the deadline. And I think the real sticking point into why the Jazz were not involved in a blockbuster is Bradley Beal in Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And it is as simple as Bradley Beal is going to get a Supermax extension from the Wizards this summer. If he had been traded, that option likely goes away. So is there a sign and trade to be had for Bradley Beal? Sure, maybe there is. Is he going to sign with Washington? On some level, he is. There's no question about that.
Right.
But what I will say is that doesn't mean he'll be there. He will be in Washington. But to get the money that he wants and that he's eligible to make when he opts out of his deal and goes to free agency this summer, Beal has to do that deal with Washington.
Right.
And I think that is why he hasn't been traded to this point. I think that is why you see that the Washingtons, the Bostons, the blockbuster trades that were out there in the Eastern Conference did not happen because they simply the guys are not ready at this point in time. The summer is when you can make those big deals happen. When free agency opens, sign-in trades can happen, major contracts can be moved, which they cannot be moved at the deadline. It is far more difficult to trade a max player at the deadline than it is in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this summer now, I don't think there's any doubt that the Utah Jazz will be one of the most active franchises this summer.
Yeah, I mean that's what it's shaping up to be, and I think that if you're the Utah Jazz, you gotta hit this summer. You gotta really find a way to get this team moving forward this summer. And hey, maybe they make a deep playoff run this year. Who knows? I don't know. But what I am saying is this is not a championship caliber team. We're gonna get to who Vegas is saying is the favorite to win the NBA title. But what I'm telling you is it's not just us saying that there are a bunch of teams better than the Jazz right now. And I think that, at the end of the day for this team, you gotta get more athletic and you gotta get more versatile with the guys you have on the floor. That's the biggest thing that stands out to me, and I don't think it's beyond this front office to trade Rudy Gobert. I don't. It's just my opinion. I don't have anything to go off of, but I don't think it's beyond them. I think that it just is a deal that has to happen in the summer, and if that happens, if they were to trade Rudy Gobert, that would be a clear signal to Donovan Mitchell that they're changing the narrative of this team and they're going to change how we play basketball in Utah. And I think if you trade Rudy, you're probably getting a new head coach. You're probably getting basically a fresh start.
And I think that's one of the most controversial topics with Jazz fans. I think Quinn Snyder is one of the most loved and hated guys in this town because there's a lot of people frustrated with the way he runs his player rotations. There's a lot of people frustrated with the way that this team plays. There's a lot of veterans in that locker room. And again, this is not new. We've reported this for over a month. There is frustration amongst the veterans on this team that there is no accountability, essentially. There is a lack of accountability. We've heard repeatedly that, Donovan Mitchell, as we told you, and Rudy Gobert are not friends. They're not close. And there has been significant friction between those two. I don't think that means that they can't coexist in a locker room. But I will again go back to the point that Rudy Gobert is not a championship caliber player in today's NBA world.
Right.
And I understand he's an elite defensive player. I understand he's really important to the Utah Jazz. And you could make the argument, as many do, that he is currently, as this roster is constructed, their most important player. But there's no doubt Donovan Mitchell is the best player the Jazz have. And if I'm the Utah Jazz, Jake, I do exactly what they're doing, and I go all in on Don.
Yeah.
And if I can trade Rudy's contract, I trade it.
Yeah, and I think that, if you go all in on Don, I think that does a couple of things. Number one, I think it kind of elongates Donovan Mitchell in a Jazz uniform. If you send that clear message and that message is backed up through actions, you're gonna get a good positive vibe from Donovan Mitchell, as you would with any player of his caliber. Now, I think the challenge for the Jazz is, okay, great, let's trade Rudy, but what does the team look like if we do that? What are we going to go after? What is our goal when we say, hey, we're going to build around Don? Okay, great in concept, but what does that actually look like? How does that actually pan out on the floor? And that's why I think this is such a tough thing to talk about at this time in the year because you don't know who's available. You don't know what your options really are. And that's why the summer is going to be fascinating because once the season's over, like once you're eliminated from the postseason, and it's just a couple of teams left playing for the NBA championship, you're basically waiting for the finals to end, but you're having conversations, you're strategizing, you're looking at who potentially would be available, and then you have to get after it. And that's where I think this whole Danny Ainge, dynamic comes in. That's where I think the D Wade, dynamic could potentially come in where, you want Danny Ainge to be, kind of scoping out the landscape and seeing who's available. And if he needs to utilize D Wade and his player relations, he's going to do that, and that's why I think this front office could be pretty successful building a championship team in
Yes.
Utah. I think they have the right personnel in the front office. I think they're pragmatic and they're real logical in their thinking. And while yes, I was disappointed by the trade deadline, as you just said, I don't think they had a lot of moves that they could go and make, So I think naturally it was going to feel underwhelming. But at the end of the day, again, when you get to the summer and this season's over, I would not be surprised by some pretty major things going down.
Yeah, I think that this is going to be one of the busiest summers that we've ever seen in the NBA. And I think when you look at some of the names, I mean, the Lakers last night got humiliated
Again.
by the Clippers. And obviously they both play at crypto, but I mean, the Lakers got humiliated. That roster is going to be dramatically transformed. And I can't believe that there is not major regret in that Laker front office that they did not make that Russell Westbrook to Houston trade.
Yeah.
I look at Damian Lillard. I think he is a prime candidate to be traded out of Portland. I look at De'Aaron Fox. I look at everybody in the Western Conference is open for business. I think the Phoenix Suns realize that window is awfully small for them, and they are going to have to figure out what to do with Chris Paul and how much longer he's a guy. The Dallas Mavericks probably know they're outgunned. What is Jamal Murray going to be like? There's all these questions up and down the Western Conference.
Yeah.
And I can't believe a team like Golden State sits tight with Wiseman and Kuminga. There's too much value there, and they're in a position where, hey, is Andrew Wiggins a long-term fit now? Is Klay Thompson the same guy?
Yeah.
Just those storylines alone. And then you add the Jazz into that, and you say to yourself, well, this is a team that's good, not great.
Yep.
This is a team that, and we're going to talk about championship odds.
Yep.
The sports books in Vegas believe that there are 7 teams in the NBA better than the Utah Jazz, which means you're not close to winning a championship. I can point to the Eastern Conference, the Knicks, Washington. There's a lot of people who think the Bulls are going to go and get another superstar. You can go up and down the standings. There are deals to be made.
Yeah.
How intact are the Brooklyn Nets? If they don't make the playoffs, because your boy came back last night and was sensational.
Yeah.
They lost to the Heat without Jimmy Butler.
Yep.
Which is, in Brooklyn, by the way, is incredibly disappointing.
Yeah.
This team spends a ton of money. I don't know what happens with Bradley Beal. But I'm telling you, there's going to be major movement this summer in the NBA. And I think the Jazz have a chance to be at the epicenter of that.
Yeah, there's a ton of opportunity, and that's what you need. That's what you need to build a special team. You need, at a minimum, opportunity. Now, obviously, it's what you make of that opportunity, but at a minimum, you got to at least have players who are available and teams who are willing to talk. And so when I hear this whole, again, where the conversation started, hey, the Knicks at the deadline had called the Jazz on Donovan Mitchell, I'm not surprised by that because the Knicks understand the Donovan Mitchell dynamic and his relations and ties to the city. Like it doesn't surprise me that you would call, but I also am a little surprised that the Jazz weren't out. I know we heard that they were on the phones and calling and doing things. We did hear that, but I guess I just expected them to do more with Joe Ingles. So I hope that this summer they are very aggressive and they choose action over stagnation. That's what I hope. I hope that they are out there and doing things.
I think the Joe Ingles trade was disappointing. They got a ton of luxury tax relief out of it. I get that. But I agree with you. I wish I actually think this is a make or break summer. This summer will determine Donovan Mitchell's long term viability as a Jazz man. I mean, if you go and make a Rudy Gobert deal this summer, which I think is, I'd put it at 55-45. They move him. And I've talked to a lot of people about this. And I just don't believe that Don and Rudy are the core of a championship caliber team.
No, because the belief isn't there both ways, right? The Donovan, and
Yeah.
again, my opinion could be wrong, but we watch the Jazz every single night. We're plugged into this team based on what we've heard and what I see. I don't believe that Donovan Mitchell believes in Rudy Gobert as a number 2 alpha dog, if you will. Because if he did, he would feed him more. He would work him more. He would work with him on the floor more, but he doesn't. So I just don't think that Donovan Mitchell believes in him. And yeah, when you talk about building around Donovan Mitchell, put guys around him that he believes in. Put guys around him that he wants to pass the ball to, Like, how long did it take to get Don to start moving the ball on the drive? Well,
Yeah.
we're seeing it now, but it took a long time. So I would be curious to see how Don's game evolves if you put good, legitimate talent around him that can really score on their own, because you don't have that right now.
Yeah, and I think that what's interesting is that you have the opportunity to really remake this club. I mean, you can do almost anything you want to do. It just depends on what you think you have. And from what we've understood for months now, Danny Ainge fully is aware that he doesn't have what it takes to win.
Yeah.
He knows that. And I think that right now you're dealing with the one big elephant in the room, and that is twofold. One, you have a guy in Rudy Gobert who is a couple of things: not popular with his teammates, because also from what I understand, he is not a guy in Rudy Gobert that takes a lot of self-accountability, right? And so there's a lot of frustration with that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other side of the coin is he's not a guy that can play at a fast pace in the NBA and be effective either defensively or offensively. We saw that, I mean, very clearly in the Houston game, but on the regular, when teams go fast against the Jazz, it limits Rudy's ability to rim protect.
Yeah.
Because he's not able to just run rim to rim anymore. And we saw it going back to the Clippers series. We saw it several times last year. And really in the last 3 years, where a team is going to scheme Rudy Gobert, really, you'd ideally like him to be in the corner because it puts him in no man's land. It gets him away from the paint. Like if he's at the top of the key or extended, he's near the paint.
Yeah.
You want him away from the paint in the corner. So he's limited defensively in big moments. And he makes $41 million a year.
Yep.
That's a recipe for trading a guy. How that deal happens, I don't know. You coughing or something?
No, I'm saying it's rough that he's making $41 million a year.
$41 million a year.
It's rough. There's no
like-
doubt about it. It is, all jokes aside, it's hard to swallow. It is not a good contract.
Yeah, and I think, what's interesting is just talking to an NBA guy, I think that there is a common belief that the New York Knicks are going to move on from Tom Thibodeau, which would almost be a prerequisite for any Donovan Mitchell trade.
Yeah.
Because Don is not that guy.
Yeah.
And Tom Thibodeau is a guy that is very hard to play for.
Yeah, he's an asshole.
Tom is not easy to play for. We've seen that in Minnesota. We certainly saw that in Chicago. I think we're seeing the love affair is over in New York. So the Knicks, I think, know that they need that one iconic guy. I think they believe that guy is Donovan Mitchell. I think the problem for the Knicks is the Jazz also believe that.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see. Let's get your comments in here. Teddy Wayman, good morning to you. Tanner Plummer, hey, guys. Hack Podcast says, hey, guys, hey, guys.
Hey, guys. Hey, guys.
Cody Strickland says, morning, guys. Great
Hey,
day
guys.
last night for the Jazz. It was. And Garcia says, morning, Merca. Rudy Sanchez says, morning, fellas. And Garcia says, I've been saying for a couple of years now, Donovan, No D, Mitchell, and Zion, if he ever gets healthy in New York, with the next 2 to 4 years. I don't think Zion Williamson is a fit with the Knicks.
I'm not sure that he's a fit with most teams, to be honest with you.
I think that's a really tough equation.
Yeah. I don't
Like,
think
where
that.
does he fit? What does he do as a player, do you think?
Well, I mean, I think he's a transition player. I think he's a player that does really well when he can be in a motion offense where he's moving and then, you're working matchups and getting him onto smaller guys. And I think he's good at bully ball. That's what I think he is, It surprises me that, he's lost all that lift in his game, but he is dealing with a foot injury. So I don't know how long maybe that affected him or plagued him, if you will, but now they're saying that he's in a better spot and that he's improving and that he's finally able to walk again and do full weight, full contact stuff. So we'll see. I don't know, man. Like, I think the thing for Zion is that he's not 7 feet tall, so you can't be 300 pounds, dude. You gotta lose that weight. And I know we make a lot of jokes about him eating too many Twinkies and I just think that he needs to lose some weight, get in shape, and his role on the floor will be expanded. Right now, I'm not so sure that he's got a particular role. I think that he's just somebody who's out there playing in the flow of the game. I don't think it's not like you can say to him, "Hey, dude, you're our 4 today."
Yeah.
He just is a guy.
Yeah, I think what's so interesting is there's risk in every player.
Mm-hmm.
I think from the jump, Zion Williamson was really risky, but how many general managers could have passed on that athletic ability? And I understand why they drafted him. But my question is, how quickly do the Pelicans realize they made a mistake? How quickly?
That's a tough question. I mean, if I'm them, I already think I did make a mistake, to be honest with you.
Well, you have to have thought about it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that you can say that Zion has worked out. He hasn't. I mean, what has he done for you? Pretty much nothing. So,
and you know what? I think they rectified their mistake with Lonzo Ball pretty quickly. And the Bulls are now paying that price because Lonzo just does not stay healthy.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people who'd make the case that the Anthony Davis trade was real interesting if you're the Pelicans, but
I think they won that trade. Now.
Yeah.
But listen, the Lakers won a championship.
Yeah.
So let's not. And that's one of the interesting things is I think a lot of people forget that the Anthony Davis trade won the Lakers a championship.
Yeah. So, I mean, they technically won the trade, but now they're terrible, so I don't know.
Well, and I also think that Anthony Davis is a big part of why they're terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the guy just isn't healthy and doesn't play. But I look at Brandon Ingram. I think they turned Josh Hart into C.J. McCallum. I mean, I think they're winning. I think they continue to win that trade. Yeah. I think Brandon Ingram is. I mean, he is an elite player. I don't think he's ever a superstar because he's just too low key. That's not that guy.
Yeah.
But he is a guy that every team would like to have on their roster.
Yeah, he can score, man.
And he's long and he defends well.
Yeah.
So I think, I don't know. I think that's an interesting question, probably for a different show. But my point is, when you look at what's going to happen this summer, I think Zion's one of the guys that could get moved. I absolutely do. I'm curious what a team like Charlotte's going to do this summer.
Yeah. Who's to say? Because
that team's close.
That's last year's Memphis Grizzlies team. I mean, that's a team that can beat you.
That team, Miles Bridges is
filthy. You're not trading him. Him and Melo are going to be on that team for like 5 years.
And Terry Rozier, for everything he's not, I mean, he is what you would Jordan Clarkson to be.
Doing a job.
Scoring consistently. Like if that guy, I don't know, man. I think it's interesting. It's an interesting conundrum. I disagree with you on no D, Donovan Mitchell and Garcia, and I know that's your thing. Tanner Plummer says this is effing America.
Mm-hmm.
James Knight, I don't know what happened to your comment.
This is fucking America.
James deleted his comment that a bunch of people commented on. Q Sam says good morning. Eric C says morning, guys. Happy Friday. Amen to that.
Yeah.
Tanner says as a Jazz fan, it's nice to hear Don wants to stay in Utah. I don't know that Don wants to stay in Utah.
We didn't say that.
What I'm telling you is that Donovan hasn't demanded a trade yet.
Which is a big difference.
I think that he sees that this is his team. I mean, that's the conversation that Jazz fans can't get away from. This is Donovan Mitchell's club. This is his team.
Yeah.
The Utah Jazz are Donovan Mitchell's team.
Yeah.
If he goes to, and the bigger question is, we all chase what's green, right? Like on the other side of the fence, the grass is always greener. It looks more watered. It's got beautiful, mower stripes in it and shit. But here's the question. You hop the fence and all of a sudden you see all the dandelions and brown spots. what happens when you get to New York? Because you're not certainly going to win a championship as a Knick if it's the Knicks as they've always been. Now, with the change in that front office and the structural differences, and it would seem that Jimmy Dolan's kind of more out of the way and Leon Rose is more running things.
Yeah.
Okay. There's some things to talk about there. But are you assured if you go to New York, you're going to win a title?
No, of course not.
And my guess is if any trade happened, it would be a multi-team deal. This would have to be 3 teams, 4 teams.
Yeah, no doubt.
Julius Randle would certainly have to be in that deal. I mean, right? I don't know how do you make that trade?
Yeah.
And keep Julius Randle if you're the Knicks, just based on salary alone.
I mean, listen, every team involved in that trade is making a choice to change the direction of their franchise. That's what that trade's all about. You're making a choice to move on from what you had and start fresh with someone new and see what that looks like. So, I think Julius would have to be involved. I don't know who the 3rd and 4th teams would be, but they would have to be involved.
I would think that you would have to think that the Celtics are going to be busy this summer.
Yep.
The Jazz and Celtics tried to make a Marcus Smart deal. The Jazz couldn't get it done.
Mm-hmm.
I look at De'Aaron Fox. That's a guy that I know the Knicks have liked for a long time.
Yep.
As Sacramento get pulled into that, they're all into making the playoffs this year. I get that, which is again why they're going to make deals in the summer. De'Aaron Fox and Harrison Barnes have value around this league. I'm telling you that right now.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see there. I mean, are you telling me that you're going to trade De'Aaron Fox after trading Tyrese Halliburton? I don't know.
I'd be shocked.
But
they did the Halliburton deal, so who are we talking about?
And they are the Sacramento Kings. But, you're absolutely calling them. Are you not calling about Wiseman and Kuminga from Golden State?
Absolutely.
Hell yes, I am.
don't think they're going to trade Kuminga. I think they will trade Wiseman.
I know, again, I just keep saying it. Kuminga's a stud. The guy.
Keep it real.
I don't know how long I'll say it for.
Bucket getter, dude.
Until you come around on Kuminga, that kid is a stud.
You're a casual.
I'm telling you, it can happen. James Knight says Donovan Mitchell needs to turn the ball over less if he wants to not waste his years. I think you're seeing that. I think that's a great point, James. I think you're seeing that now. Because the turnovers for Don have historically been, hey, let me drive into the paint, try to get some crazy layup or dunk, and it turns into a turnover. The other night in Houston, when he was falling down and somehow kicked that ball to Conley in the corner, that's usually a turnover. Yeah. But I think when he gets into the paint, now he's thinking more kick than score.
Yeah, I still have to agree with James that he turns the ball over more than he should.
I would agree with that too.
I think the other night in Houston he did make that play, but then there were like 3 or 4 other ones where he's in the paint and he just simply turns it over. The
play where he drives deep and then tries to throw it back out top, that's always a turnover.
It's a high risk play, because once you're caught in the air, it's over. I mean, you're either going to be able to make that pass or you're not, and if you're not, it's probably a turnover. So. I tend to this is the conversation around developing the mid-range game. Everyone thinks the mid-range game means, well, can he make a shot from the elbow? Yes, he can make a shot from the elbow, but what I'm talking about is controlling the game in the mid-range, controlling the pace with which the defense moves, controlling where the ball goes,
Mid-range is not just scoring.
Yeah.
Mid-range, and I think a lot of people don't understand, that mid-range is passing out of the paint. Mid-range is dribbling through the paint. Continuing through, like mid-range is just, as you said, controlling the pace and the flow of the game. Now, when you look at the best mid-range players in the game, the Bookers, the DeRozans, the Chris Pauls, those guys all have 5 spots on the floor where if you put them in that spot, it's going in the hole.
Durant last night.
Oh my God. Kevin Durant last night, lethal in the mid-range, right? That's part of it. But what you see with the best players in the game, the reason Ja Morant isn't the best point guard in the game yet is he's still dunking instead of passing.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, it probably takes a major injury to change that. But I just think Donovan Mitchell's at the cusp of really being spectacular.
Cold-blooded, clean, methodical, thorough.
I'm all in on Don, and I know a lot of people disagree with me on this. I get a lot of heat for this on YouTube and Twitter, but he's a special talent. Donovan Mitchell's a generational talent.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this summer, he is he is going to work his ass off on the mid-range. He needs footwork, and he needs mid-range ability to score the mid-range jumper. He can already pass it. And when you have that ability to Euro in the paint, and when you have the ability to step through in the paint, which he does, now adding a mid-range jumper from anywhere inside the arc just makes you a killer.
Yeah.
And when he adds that piece to his game, Donovan Mitchell becomes, I mean, I got to, he's probably top 10, top 7. If he adds that to his game. Now, the other part of this is your guy, Kevin Durant, is also a really good defender just because he wakes up and his arms are 80 feet long.
I'm Kevin Durant. You know who I am.
Will Don ever be an elite defender? Probably not, because as you always say, he's a little guy. He's undersized.
I just think the size thing, everyone's like, oh, well, the size thing doesn't matter. Well, actually, it does matter in certain situations.
Yes.
You know? It does matter. I mean, it matters in terms of the matchup he's got. It matters in terms of, you know, what shots he can get and what shots he can't get. Last night, Kevin Durant, you know, the Heat rolled out a zone defense for like 5-6 possessions in a row. And Kevin Durant goes right to the elbow in the middle of the zone. They give him the ball, and he just turns around and shoots over the defense, mainly because he's 6'11", right? So when you're 6'11", you obviously have advantages that a 6-footer does not have.
But what else did he do that I loved? He set up LaMarcus Aldridge for those little top-of-the-key shots.
Yeah.
Which, that's what makes Kevin Durant elite. I think Kevin wants to score every time, but he knows getting other people involved does that. Look at the play that Seth Curry missed that 3.
Yeah.
Kevin Durant got him open without
Wide
ever
open
having
look.
touching the ball. Kevin Durant never touched the ball on that possession, but because he ran through the paint, stayed out at the top of the key, took a double team, they were able to move in reverse and get it back to Seth. Now he missed the 3, but Kevin Durant allowed that to happen.
Yeah.
So I don't know that Don will ever be at that level. In fact, nobody will ever be at Kevin Durant's level. I truly think for
Once in
his
a
age
lifetime.
group, yeah, for his age group, Kevin Durant's the best player that this generation's seen. You know, I don't put him in the same generation as LeBron. I think LeBron is his best. I think I would take Kevin Durant over Steph. I mean, I would take Kevin Durant over Giannis. I don't know anybody I would take over Kevin Durant.
Yeah. He's the best player in the league right now.
I hate that he's been hurt so much lately. But when you rehab an Achilles like that, the knee injury is certain
But
to
I
come.
also think a lot of teams are taking their time with the rehab. I mean, there's just no reason for them to rush him back, you know? Like,
yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, as long as you get guys back, this is what Denver's doing with Jamal Murray. I mean, as long
And
as you get him
Michael
back. Michael Porter, whatever. Mr. Scientific Genius.
right.
Anyway, don't. No. Dude,
Mr. fucking vaccination genius scientific expert, you fucking asshole.
I sent that clip to Jake again last night. That's Michael Rappaport ripping Cole Beasley for dropping a pass. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And Michael Porter Jr. is notoriously anti-vax.
Mhm.
He's no Kyrie Irving. But
Mhm.
anyway, here nor there. Let's see. And Garcia says, new material, possible Quinn replacements. If Don went to the Knicks, he'll just have the New York media criticize his every move, which he does not get here.
No.
By the way, real quick, because it's a pet peeve Friday on this show. Did anybody see a certain member of the Salt Lake, City Jazz media cheering on the Clippers to beat the Lakers last night? Grow up. Like, what are we doing?
It's just,
It's so petty ass.
It's
it
petty,
is.
dude.
The fandom in this group of media members is ridiculous.
It's a joke, dude.
It's ridiculous.
It's a joke.
And Garcia says Stephen A. Smith is a damn fool. I agree. Jeremy Bolton says hi.
Hello.
No Alex Caruso smack talk, JB.
You're casual.
You know, Mr. E says who would be a good center to replace Rudy? I mean,
A younger mobile big.
who's the best team in the NBA right now?
The Suns probably.
The Suns or the Heat? Bam Adebayo.
Yeah, perfect example.
Defensive player, can shoot the jumper, can shoot a little turnaround jumper, and is great in the paint. Runs
a
the
Jaron
floor.
Jackson Jr.-esque player.
Oh my God! Did you see that block on Tatum last night?
I didn't.
Jesus, Jaron Jackson runs the entire length of the floor. This is what Rudy can't do. Jaron Jackson from his basket sprints the length of the floor. The Boston Celtics are on the run. Jason Tatum gets the ball, free throw line extended right. He is up at the basket ready to dunk it. And out of nowhere, Jaron Jackson comes from behind and blocks it clean as a newborn's bottom.
I'm for real.
That was one of the best blocks of the year last night. And that guy, Bam Adebayo is the perfect example.
Facts.
He runs his ass off. He's athletic. You can give him the ball. He can score.
And he plays with the right mentality.
And he understands he's not the number one on that team or the number two or the number three. He understands that he's the number one when they need him to be.
Yeah.
And it makes a huge difference. I mean, Bam Adebayo blocking Kevin Durant's shot last night is exactly what you need.
Yes.
And then Kevin Durant getting the ball right back and hitting a little jumper is exactly what you need. Like, that's the prototypical center. But if you look at the best teams in the NBA, the Golden States, they play Draymond Green, they play Kevon Looney, they play Kuminga, Wiseman. Young guys that can run and do multiple faceted things.
And young guys who know their role.
Pass, dish. You can't build a team around a center unless his name is Joel Embiid.
Yeah.
And how many centers have we seen in the last 5 years that can do what Joel does?
Not many.
None. Zero.
I don't even think Jokic does what Joel does from a mentality standpoint.
Jokic is a guard.
Yeah.
He's a distributor, a guard. He is a facilitator. He is a back to the basket. I get that.
Yeah.
Nobody does what
Joel.
And excuse me.
Eyes, he's the greatest to ever do it.
It's not Joel. It's Joel. Nobody does what Joel does. Joe does. LOL, Kwame Brown. Oh, whoa, comment on.
I know I did not just hear the name Kwame Brown in the comments.
Who do you think said it?
Whoever came up with that shit need to be fired.
James Knight.
God, dude, you guys are amazing. I really appreciate you. Tanner Plummer says, LOL, Kwame Brown would be a good replacement for Rudy, Mr. E. No, he wouldn't. Mr. E, Lopez, Adams, or a center by number gets you 2 or 3 bodies to fill the post. John Jackson says the Jazz must be very active this summer. Kawhi and George will be back next year, and that team will be top 3 in the West. I'm telling you, Reggie Jackson not retiring.
Yep.
It's amazing how well he's playing.
He's made money.
But dude, can I just say the Lakers are so bad.
Yeah.
They're awful.
He's a bum.
And I mean, they're getting an incredible.
It's embarrassing.
But they're getting like an incredible performance out of Malik Monk.
Yeah, but it's embarrassing how bad the Lakers are. Losing by 30 to the Clippers is
they can't defend.
It's a sin, dude.
And the quality you're getting out of Carmelo Anthony, what you're seeing out of LeBron, and Russell Westbrook can't contribute.
The reason that this is happening is and this is what often happens to the Lakers and several teams who just throw things. This is what happened to the Celtics. You can't just throw a team together and think that they're gonna work. You know, injuries aside, obviously they've had a lot of injuries, but at some point there's got to be the core of the team's got to have some glue to it. You know, like Bron, bringing Bron in. Okay, I get it. You're the Lakers, makes sense. All right, cool. You know, bringing AD in. Okay, cool. Bron and AD and everybody else. I like that. That's why they won a championship, because you had Bron and AD leading the team and everybody else could just be in the background. When you brought Russ in, that messed the whole thing up. Now you got 3 instead of 2.
Yeah.
And your cap is screwed, so you can't make moves. That was a mistake, and they're going to fix that mistake.
Yeah, and you know what I think is hysterical is this guy Brian Maxwell on Twitter.
Oh, God, here we go.
The Knicks, as an organization, lack the assets to even pretend they could trade for Mitchell. The Knicks can't use other teams' assets even in a 3-team trade. Every trade participant will need value for their assets, value for value. There is no scenario where the Knicks can get Mitchell right now. 0. Like, I don't know what New York Knicks team you're talking about. If they have a water polo club that I'm unaware of, let me know. I mean, the Knicks, the lack of understanding among Jazz fans on how trades work is a little shocking. I mean, it is strictly, most times it is strictly a numbers game. When you're trying to move a guy like Donovan Mitchell and you're trying to get player for player or dollar for dollar value, that's likely not going to happen.
Listen, you can make any trade you want to make. Let's be clear on this. Anything can happen. You just have to match the numbers up. You just have to make things work.
If you are the New Orleans Pelicans and you're trading Zion Williamson, if you're the New Orleans Pelicans trading Anthony Davis, if you are, and think of any of the major trades that have happened, if you are the Brooklyn Nets trading for James Harden, what are you willing to give up? You were trading Ben Simmons. You held on and held on and held on. You had multiple deals available for Ben Simmons.
And you traded him to the Nets.
And you traded him to the Nets to get James Harden because that's the deal you thought you wanted to make.
Yeah.
And that's what this ultimately comes down to. If you're going to trade Rudy or Don, you're going to get the best deal you think you can get, period. Is that money? Is that players? Is that picks? It's probably a combination of that. But it is simply what you are willing to take back in return for Donovan Mitchell. And not understanding that 3 and 4 team trades happen in the summer on a regular basis. If you look at the Sacramento trade, the Halliburton deal, if you look at the Harden deals, multiple Harden deals, anybody can be traded.
Yeah.
Anybody can be traded. The Lakers have one of the worst contracts in the NBA right now in Russell Westbrook. And they had a deal for him.
After the street closed Davis.
And they had a deal for him. Anybody can be traded. It's just simply a matter of who's got the wherewithal to make the deal and who's going to win and who's going to lose.
Yep.
There's a sucker born every day.
Let's settle this right now.
Okay, a couple more, and then we need to get to Vegas, thinking that the Jazz are not very good. Cody Strickland, what do you mean it was? Golden State lost and Memphis lost and the Lakers lost. Right, but why is that a good day for the Jazz?
I don't understand the connection in that comment.
Yeah, the Jazz are not. So wait, so you're saying that the Jazz are chasing Golden State. I don't see. There's not a scenario in my mind where the Jazz catch the Suns or Golden State. There's just not.
Yeah, it's not
I
happening.
guess if you look at it, you could portend to say that they could catch Memphis, but they'd have to win these next 3 games would go a long way to them potentially getting back to the 4th spot. But I mean, you're 2.5 games behind Memphis. You're 3 games behind the Warriors, and you're 10.5 games behind the Suns. You're not I don't think you're catching the Suns or the Warriors.
No.
I mean,
it's too far, man. Come on.
the Warriors are 3-7 because they haven't been healthy. They still haven't had Clay and Dre back. And they just got Klay Thompson back last night. So, I mean, I just don't see how you win the volume of games you would have to win. And you'd have to assume then that Memphis and Golden State just don't win many games down the stretch.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what when you're playing, when you're at 63 games, what do you have, 19 games left?
Yep.
I mean, to make up 10.5 games in 19, the Suns would have to lose every game. Even to make up 3 games on Golden State, it's going to take a monumental outcome. And, I mean, even based on what we saw in Houston the other night, it's not likely that that's going to happen. I mean, You're going to New Orleans tonight. Then, you're back-to-back with tough games on Sunday and Monday. I don't know how
There's not room for it.
I don't know how that's realistic. And I'd love it to happen. I'd love to see the Jazz get to the number 1 spot, have home court advantage throughout the playoffs. That's just not going to happen. I'd love to see them, getting to the 3. You know, what does that put you with Denver? I'd frankly rather stay in the 4 and play Dallas. You know, so everybody gets all bonered over, oh, well, we got to get to the 3. Let's get up to the 2nd spot. For what? For what? Right now, in the 2nd spot, you'd be playing the Timberwolves.
Yeah.
Is that a series you want right now?
No, it's not.
I don't think that's a series you want right now. I think out of the Nuggets, Timberwolves, and Mavericks, I'll take the Mavericks. With home court advantage, I'll take the Mavericks.
Yeah.
By the way, you only have a 2-game lead on Dallas, and you play them Monday.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just not the. That's why I'm saying, like it. And Cody, I love your passion. I love everybody's passion about the Jazz. Think about what you're hoping they do. You're hoping that they go play the Denver Nuggets in the first round of the playoffs. You're hoping that they go play the Minnesota. You really want Minnesota in a 7-game series.
My fucking ass.
I mean, you probably win that series. But you really want to play with Minnesota, who's much better, and they have a guy in Karl Anthony Towns, and they have a guy in Anthony Edwards and Patrick Beverly, and
No, I'm good.
I'm not really looking for that series.
Yeah, I'm good.
Give me the Dallas Mavericks.
All right, let's get to these Vegas odds. We're running out of time here.
Okay, hit it. Vegas odds here. The Jazz are what, 7th?
The Jazz are the 7th favorite to win the odds. The teams above them in order. The Heat are 6th.
Are the Jazz better than the Miami Heat?
I think it's close.
I think the Heat are better.
Close.
I think the Heat are better.
It's very close. Above the Heat, 2 spots above the Jazz is the Milwaukee Bucks. I think clearly the Bucks are better.
I would agree.
3 spots ahead of the Jazz, the 76ers.
I think the Sixers are the best team in the NBA right now.
Yeah, so I think they're better. The Nets are real interesting, dude. The Nets are a very interesting team because, you know, if Kyrie's on the floor with Kevin, that's a different team, you know? So which version are we getting? I think last night's Nets team is not better than the Jazz. I think Kyrie and Kevin together is better than the Jazz. So, and then, of course, you've got Golden State and Phoenix, which we just spent 20 minutes talking about how those teams are better.
Yeah. Cody Strickland says that Jazz are the 4th seed because they weren't healthy.
I'm so tired of this narrative.
Dude, nobody was healthy. Nobody is
like,
healthy.
Dude, the injuries...
The Golden State Warriors are missing arguably their most important player.
They didn't have Draymond or Clay for like 70% of the season, and they're still better than you.
And
like,
by the
do you
way,
understand that?
You're one of the least impacted teams by COVID. Like, you should have been making hay. It all equals out, man. It all equals out. I think the Sixers are the best team in the in my top 5 right now.
Mm-hmm.
The Sixers 1. I think the Heat are number 2 right now. I think the Suns are number 3. And then 4 or 5 is a real toss-up.
Memphis has to be there.
I think I want to put Memphis 5. But I also think, like, look at Milwaukee. The problem is I don't know what Golden State is.
I do.
If Dre and Clay are healthy and playing, I think they're probably that 4th team.
Yeah. No, I think everyone's underrating the Warriors. I think the Warriors are biding time. Remember, see again, the Warriors have been here before. The Warriors have the postseason experience. Those 3 together will play well. I'm not worried about it. They have the chemistry to step right back on the floor. They're not like the Nets or the Sixers where they got to build chemistry. They're fine.
Yeah, I think when you look at who the Warriors haven't had, and the importance of Draymond Green to that team.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you look at, like, the Bulls are really interesting. You know, when you look at playoff series and what a team does in a playoff series, the Dallas Mavericks, the reason I like the Mavericks matchup so much more than Denver is I think that Dallas is going to play slow plotting basketball. That's not a team, even with you know, Dorian Finney-Smith or, you know, Dwight Powell jumps out of the gym, but Rudy Gobert should be effective in a series against Dallas.
So the Bulls are the 11th and Dallas is 12th.
I think in the regular season that makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
In a series, though, I don't think the Bulls are physical enough to beat almost anybody in a series. I think that Dallas is just too damn slow.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why the Jazz would. I don't want anything to do with Denver. If it's true that Jamal Murray and MPJ are coming back, I want nothing to do with that.
Yeah, I'm good.
I look at Minnesota, and I know that Minnesota is vastly underrated by most people. And people just look at the numbers and they're like, "Oh, look where they are in the standings, Dick." And it's like, well, yeah, but look where Houston is in the standings. And I got to tell you, I don't know how, and it's probably because, you know, I just have no life. I watch a lot of Timberwolves basketball.
Yeah, I mean they're fun. They're a fun team to watch.
And I look at their win at Golden State the other night.
At Golden State, you won.
I'm sorry, that was at Minnesota, my bad. Against Golden State the other night. And I look at the game that they got from D'Angelo Russell,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, I want nothing to do with that team. Like 22 points from D'Angelo with only 2 rebounds and 3 dimes. 15 points. Excuse me, my bad. 22.7 dimes, 2 steals, 3 rebounds from D'Angelo Russell. Patrick Beverley only plays 22 minutes, scores 10.7 dimes in 22 minutes, and they get 20 from Malik Beasley off the bench. Taurean Prince gives them 11. Oh, by the way, we haven't even talked about Karl Anthony Towns going 39 and 9.
Facts.
I want nothing to do with Minnesota if I'm the Utah Jazz.
Oh.
That is a fast, up and down, 3-point shooting, piss you off defensive team.
Keep it real.
And Karl Anthony Towns is that dude. He is not going to take just a moment. He's not even going to take a glance from Rudy Gobert. So, yeah, I said it. I'll take Dallas over Denver and Minnesota.
Yeah.
If I'm the Utah Jazz, to hell with that matchup.
Yeah.
I just am not interested in that. All right.
Okay.
54 minutes of power.
Yeah. Power.
I watch a lot of Timberwolves basketball. Equals, I'll take things I'll never say for 500. Jeremy Bolton says, true. Absolutely true. Cody Strickland says, I'm not trying to be a casual, Monty.
You're casual.
But the Jazz was number 1 team in the league, both standings and power rankings in Vegas until the week they got COVID. Okay.
That might be true.
Cody and every other Jazz fan. What does the regular season mean in the postseason?
What the fuck does one thing have to do with the other?
It doesn't mean anything.
Number 1 seed bounced in the second round.
It doesn't mean anything. It means nothing. You look at the NBA playoffs come down to matchups inside of a series and winning matchups in that series. Who wins, Karl Anthony Towns or Rudy Gobert? Well, I'm going to tell you that it's Karl Anthony Towns, because Karl Anthony Towns is a shot blocker. Like I look at Memphis in the Jazz. You want to know why you don't want the Memphis Grizzlies? Because Jaron Jackson Jr. is the 3rd best shot blocker in the league. And their help defense, like the other thing that people were on me about yesterday was the Memphis Grizzlies. Oh, they suck. Look at how bad they were last year. Hey, man, like that's cool. I get it.
That's last year.
That was last year. Do you not see how much better John Morant is this year?
You're so fucked.
Do you not see Desmond Bane? Do you not understand they've been without Dylan Brooks and they're still elite? How do you match up with that team's athletic ability in a 7-game series?
Who picks up Ja?
On their own. By the way, which 3 Jazz men are going to pick up Ja? And then who's going to defend the 3-point line? Because they regularly break the paint to kick to the 3-point line.
Mm-hmm.
Like do you understand that John Morant's stated goal in life is to dunk on Rudy Gobert?
I want it.
The playoffs are all about matchups. All you got to do is get in. Just get in. The 1-8 matchup is going to be a dogfight in this league.
Yes, it
is.
And
I'm sorry, man. I understand that you guys want to point to postseason and regular season and man, but we were number 1 in January. Who gives a fuck about January when it's June, man? Like, I don't understand. Like, and we got so much heat for the Clippers series last year. So much heat. Oh, he's in Paul George's head.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, and all the Clippers did was exactly what we said they would do.
It vexes me.
Because it's a 7-game series where you have to win the matchups in the series.
Yep.
So you have to get Rudy Gobert out of the paint. How do you do that? Well, you switch on the pick and roll. Well, the problem is when you switch on the pick and roll with the Minnesota Timberwolves, you're talking about Karl Anthony Towns. Okay, well, who's big enough to defend him on the block? Well, it doesn't matter because he wants to shoot threes out of the pick and roll.
Is this the dagger?
Okay, so then Memphis. Okay, we're going to pull, because let's all agree, right? Let's just agree on this. The Jazz biggest weakness is Rudy Gobert's defense in the playoffs.
That's pretty much self-explanatory.
That's their biggest weakness. So, okay, let's pretend that they wind up with Memphis.
Dude.
They're going to pick and roll with Jaron Jackson Jr. and Desmond Bane.
Yeah.
And you're going to wind up with Desmond Bane being checked by Rudy Gobert and somebody's brother being checked on Jaron Jackson Jr.
We're getting somewhere.
And he's developed the ability now to pump fake out of that three. And what they usually do in those switches is they give it to him. If Jaron Jackson's not open for a three, they're going to do a dribble handoff to Ja. And now my question is, where's Rudy Gobert? Oh, well, Monty, he'd be back in the paint defending the rim. Okay, well, then who the fuck is watching Desmond Bane in the corner? Because Desmond Bane's knocking the three down at a pretty good rate.
You're fucking awesome today.
But I'm serious. I'm serious. Like, this is...
Quote, who the fuck is watching Desmond Bane in the corner?
Like, if you look at Desmond Bane's numbers.
Yeah, who was watching Terrence Mann? Nobody.
Yeah, Rudy watching him dunk. But, like, these are the way... This is the way you have to look at playoff series. Because... teams are all about their tendencies.
Yeah.
The Utah Jazz, their tendency is exactly what happened. Guy, do you understand that Clippers series was almost a year ago?
Still talking about it.
And why are we talking about it? You did the exact same thing against Houston a year later that you were doing against the Clippers defensively.
Makes me want to puke.
So I'm just saying, bro, like when you look at Desmond Bane, okay, and it's just the matchup thing. So Desmond Bane,
yeah.
do you have any idea what somebody in the comments, guess what Desmond Bane shoots from three?
I don't know the number. I'm going to take a guess, too. I'm saying it's 37%.
How about 41.3% from three?
Jesus.
How about Desmond Bane shooting?
What's up, motherfuckers?
41% from three.
How many, do you still have the stats up? Does it tell you how many attempts that's on?
I'm going to tell you right now. Second-year player Desmond Bane. Yeah, they don't improve. They sucked last year.
Yeah, right.
Idiots. He's shooting 7 threes a game.
Jesus. Dude, what is that? 4.5-ish? Three
out of 7 a game. And this was the argument on Twitter yesterday about what's his name, the center in Houston, Christian Wood. Well, Christian Wood, that was a fluky shot. Oh, it's a fluky shot? Do you know he shoots 38% from three on the season?
Well, get your facts straight.
Well, Rudy, he was knocked off. It was like this guy on Twitter yesterday is like, it was an offensive foul on Kevin Porter. Rudy wasn't backpedaling. He was pushed off balance.
Oh, please.
No, he wasn't. So I tweet the video at him.
Please.
Right, because I have the video on my phone.
Right.
Rudy's backpedaling. Oh, well, you're not going to respect Christian Wood. That's a once-in-a-lifetime shot.
No, it's not. Dude,
it's not.
Get the hell out of here.
He had an open look. On a guy that shoots 38% from three, you're going to leave him open? Anyway, that's my point.
I still want to go back to who the fuck is watching Desmond Bane in the corner. That's an all-time line, dude.
You knew, and Cody says, actually, Monty, you said Jazz in 6 over the Clips. I did say that. But what did we tell you? That series was going to go all the way down to the wire. And you just knew that the mobility and the athletic ability of the LA Clippers was going to be a problem. And even after Kawhi got hurt, like the Luke Kennard explosion is what really bothers you about that series. Paul George is a star. He's going to get his.
He's always going to get buckets.
But the problem was that you had Ivica Zubac kicking out to a wide open Luke Kennard, and people are like, well, I'd rather have Luke Kennard beat you.
It's not the best situation, and we all know that.
Repeatedly. And Terrence Mann, because anyway, look, if you want to die on the fucking, if you want to die on the Memphis, if you want to die on the anybody but Dallas hill, go for it. You want to die on the Timberwolves hill? Patrick Beverley will walk all over you for it. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, die on those hills. I'll take the Dallas Mavericks.